meeting of the Committee on Parent and Community Engagement of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Leonard has asked to be excused. Director O'Halloran.
Here.
Director Simpson.
Present.
Director Taylor. And Chair Garcia.
Present.
We have 4 committee members present, and President Peterson is joining the committee tonight.
All right, welcome. The Chair will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and asks that those who do not wish to participate to please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in person from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on Boardcast page. Before we begin today's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. Those who wish to speak on tonight's items were required to register to speak in advance of the start of the meeting. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. I ask that those who are waiting to speak virtually to remain on the platform until you're called upon to speak. After speakers' time is up, they may continue to follow the meeting at one of the broadcast options mentioned previously. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the Chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Sent this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public committee members or the administration, are to be directed towards the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure a good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassment or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such activity continues, a recess will be called, and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting before the meeting resumes. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, he or she will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no one other than members of the board, the staff of the superintendent's office, the Office of Board Governance, and the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on the stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Also, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the Meetings, Agendas, and Meetings page on the MPS website and choosing Online Agendas. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item number 1 is a report with possible action on family and community engagement. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Excellent. Would the administration please present the item?
Yes. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Keith Fosley, Superintendent of Schools. The item before you this evening on this evening's agenda is our quarterly report regarding family and community engagement. Christy Stone and Darrell Hall will provide an overview of our progress and guide us through the presentation, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Christy.
Good evening, Chair Garcia and members of the board. Again, my name is Christy Stone, Director of Strategic Partnerships and Customer Service, and with me I have Darrell Hall, Family and Community Engagement Specialist. I am pleased to have the opportunity to provide you with an update on our progress as it relates to family and community engagement. First, we'll start off by taking a look at our 5 priorities for success. Family engagement is a critical component across all 5 of these areas. In particular, our work with families closely aligns with improving district and school culture and strengthening communication and collaboration. In addition to the 5 priorities for success, we also have a family engagement framework. This provides clear direction on our key areas of focus. We did a lot of work over the summer looking at the framework and working to integrate it into the training that we do with our parent coordinators and our family engagement programming. The framework helps to foster healthy school, family, and community relationships to promote academic success. So all of our schools are striving to meet the following 6 standards as it relates to family engagement. Schools are to be welcoming and culturally relevant environments. They are to be connected to the community. They should have tools and knowledge needed to build relationships with families and the community. Families should have avenues to serve as leaders and have opportunities to build peer networks. And families should also have the tools and knowledge to be active in their child's education. With this as a guide for our work, we'll recap some of the highlights from the latter part of the 21-22 school year. We concluded last year with a 96% retention of our parent coordinators. This continuity really helped to build strong relationships with families and increase our parents' awareness about what's happening in their child's school. In addition, we continue to offer targeted professional development, coaching, and communication to our parent coordinators. Some of the ways that we did that was through our weekly parent coordinator newsletters that were full of important district updates and provided opportunities that they could share with families to develop stronger bonds with their children and their school community. We had a number of guest speakers come and share pertinent information during our monthly Parent Coordinator Institutes. Some of those topics or departments that presented included our rec department, Black and Latino male achievement. We had sessions on how to host a successful Title I and School Engagement Council meeting. We had college and career readiness, school accounting, and sessions on how to use the Remind apps and School Messenger to communicate with families, just to name a few. Our family and community engagement team was also fully staffed last year, so we were able to work more closely with the parent coordinators on a weekly basis by region to answer questions, address issues, discuss topics related to building successful relationships with families. Our team was also able to provide more one-on-one coaching, both in person and virtually, to support parent coordinators on technical issues and provide them with ways to improve engagement at their school. It was exciting to see the return of so many in-person family engagement events. Each school was tasked with doing at least 2 family engagement events outside of their required Title I and School Engagement Council meetings. I'm excited to report that all schools met this goal and several of them exceeded it. Some of the events that I want to mention was Burbank had a successful spring open house. It had its largest turnout ever. The school did a scavenger hunt, which encouraged families and students to interact with all teachers and staff throughout the building, and they were also able to give away 3 pallets of food from the Hunger Task Force. This year, they've already planned a brand new event called Around the World at Burbank. It's a multicultural event that will have food, games, translators, and community vendors from across the city, and lots of information on ways to better engage their English as a second language families. Cass and Townsend Elementary hosted events focused on fathers that included giveaways, father-son games, activities. They also had community partners as a way for dads or male role models to feel more welcome in their students' educational environment. And of course, they were recruited to become volunteers and support the school. This year, my office will be continuing our focus on increasing male and fatherhood involvement through an upcoming Cuts and Conversations series, which will give students, fathers, or male caregivers a safe place to talk about difficult topics impacting their child's education and give them ways to stay informed. Local barbers will also be on hand for this barbershop-style conversation to give out free shape-ups and lining to all attendees. And then lastly, our district-wide Afro-Latino Special Education Forum was hosted for the first time virtually last year due to COVID. It was formerly held in person at South Division High School, and we look forward to returning in person very soon. This event is now in its 19th annual year, and the fall session just concluded last week. It included nightly speakers from the Department of Specialized Services and various community and partners, including Milwaukee County and Wisconsin Facets, to name a few. Parents were able to tune in nightly to get valuable information regarding ways to support and advocate for their child's special needs services. Twenty of our parent coordinators had the opportunity to engage in a year-long parent coordinator community of practice. As part of this cohort, a select group of parent coordinators are meeting monthly with FAST trainers, engaging in both professional development sessions and individualized coaching that also includes school administrators and teachers, with the hopes of increasing an understanding among school staff about the importance of embracing family engagement, guiding the staff to engage family in culturally diverse ways to help support school staff in learning to identify and remove barriers to improve family engagement. After this first cohort is completed, our team hopes to give tools needed to replicate this model to the rest of the parent coordinators and other schools to take a whole school approach to family engagement and get all of our families more involved. The Resilience Kids grant we applied for and received this year focuses specifically on empowering families with the confidence, tools, and skills they need to build solid relationships with their child and school community. This is another project that we're working closely with a group of our parent coordinators on to be trained to facilitate a group of parents through a 13-week curriculum that the program provides, and we look forward to updating the board later on this year on the progress on these two initiatives. Lastly, we'll wrap up with a brief overview of some of the partnerships and highlights from the community. Our MPS Backpack Drive was extremely successful this year. We were able to give backpacks to 55 of our schools and new families enrolling in the district through student services and new incoming immigrant students. We collected supplies valued at over $400,000. There were numerous community partners, individuals, as well as staff that supported this effort. Several of our schools will be receiving school supplies mid-year to help replenish those much-needed items that so many of our students need to finish the year strong. The Student Matinee Series was brand new last year. We worked with the Marcus Performing Arts Center, and over 20,000 students from the district were able to attend special 60-minute daytime performances for K-12 students featuring internationally renowned artists to support classroom learning by bringing history, science, and the arts to life. All participating schools received in-depth study materials containing lesson plans and art integration opportunities that can be incorporated into the classroom. The Student Matinee Series was made affordable to schools and students through funding from the Bader Philanthropies Incorporation, the Greater Milwaukee Foundation and the Hurstville Foundation. And I'm pleased to say that the student matinee series for this year is already at capacity. All of the scheduled shows are filled with our students, so I'm sure they'll be excited to take a field trip. Our Green Bay Packers partnership hosted a 2-day virtual leadership empowerment event last spring, and it is already scheduled again for this school year. The event provides MPS middle school students with the opportunity to participate in up to 4 webinars with guest speakers from the Packers organization who will talk to them about hope, resiliency, and the importance of performing in the classroom. 32 schools participated, and it served 6th through 8th grade students. And since they were not able to meet in person, the Packers supplied funding for schools to host pizza parties for the participants. Our district volunteers also play an important role in supporting our students in schools in various ways. James Place Volunteers is one of our longstanding volunteer groups. They're affiliated with Elmbrook Church, and they are currently serving at Washington High School in Obama. They supported students in the College and Career Readiness Center with ACT prep, resume and interview skill development, and overall life skills. Most recently, the group coordinated various field trips for students to introduce them to engineering and construction-related fields. Our office is also working very closely to make sure that our schools have business partners. Earlier this year, employees from Generac's African American Business Resource Group started a new endeavor to provide overall school support at Samuel Clemens, and we want to get more companies like that involved in supporting our schools. GE Healthcare did a community day. It's another amazing annual event where members from the organization from all levels, including their president on down, came out to do cleanup and school beautification projects to help make our schools bright and ready for the first day of school. This partnership has been in existence since 2010, and they've been able to do projects at over 100 of our MPS schools throughout the district. This year, they did projects at Milwaukee Parkside, Parkview, Maple Tree, Bruce, Stewart, and Westside Academy. That concludes my report. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? Thank you.
So much. Do any members of the committee want to make any comments or ask questions? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you, and thank you, administration, for that wonderful report. It's really great to hear all the many great things that you're all working on. I did want to say thank you to GE Healthcare. I was able to stop out at Parkside, and it was really great to see everybody pitching in. My one question, and this is not something that I would be able to get an answer on tonight, but I was at the PTA meeting at Cooper, and I've had this problem, but it didn't, until someone else mentioned it, I didn't realize it was kind of a problem, just a pain point for more than just me. With this school messenger, you're required to click a link to download PDFs, and if you rely on your phone for email, it's really hard to open. And so I don't know if that's something, that falls under parent coordinator, so I promise it is related to the item. But if that's something that would be able to, if there's any way we could fix that to make it more accessible, because otherwise some parents might be missing that, some of the content that we should be getting.
Administration.
Yes. Hi, good evening. Chair Garcia, members of the committee. My name is Darrell Hall, Family and Community Engagement Specialist. School Messenger is something that we provide training for all of the parent coordinators, and sometimes there are little hiccups. So we have learned that there's workarounds with that. And actually, last week we had a virtual session on how to work around and created a step-through around getting that information so you can have that clickable link. We know that has been a problem, and we have talked with communications about giving us some additional technical assistance to make sure that they can have that information shared to all of their parent coordinators. All the parent coordinators can have the information shared to all their families.
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, with that being known, that is something that we will look at getting a stepper together to put online under the parent link so that families could take a look at that and walk them through the process. So that's something that we would take a closer look at and get back to you.
Thank you. Follow-up, Director Halloran?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Director Simpson?
Thank you. So first of all, just that 96% of our parent coordinators came back is really impressive. I know they are just vital to that school community and a vital link for the parents. So hooray for that. I was just wondering with the Marcus Center Student Matinee Series, how many schools were able to participate last year, this year, if we have a number on that? I mean, what a great opportunity for our students.
Administration?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, I don't have the actual number of schools that participated. They just kind of gave me the overall number, but that is something that I can get for you and provide as a follow-up.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Anybody else? I have a question. I don't know if I need to pass the. No? All right, I'll just ask it. I know that, well, first of all, Mr. Hall and Ms. Stone, thank you for the amazing presentation. I think that oftentimes we have so much going on that it's hard to really have a cohesive summary of all of the magical things that are occurring building by building. So thank you for helping us get a holistic understanding of the focus points for, as we continue to strengthen community between parents, school building administration. So thank you for that. I know that you mentioned that last year the family engagement team was fully staffed. How is that looking this year?
Chair Garcia and members of the board, our family and community engagement team is still currently fully staffed.
Well, congratulations.
We look forward to continuing that work.
Excellent. And that was it. I just wanted to make sure that, we continue to support teams that really have that one-on-one direct contact with parents, because obviously they are a very important component of the success for students within education. So thank you for all the work that you do and that you support, and shout out to all the parent coordinators that are listening or that will be listening to, this meeting. Just know that, we're rooting for the work. I know it's been incredibly difficult times for a lot of, specifically that position. I know that I personally attended one of the first in-person meetings that the parent coordinator at View School had coordinated. And, it was tears in her eyes of just being able to be in community with the parents and, just that amazing work that is done, and just making sure that we can support, that work continuing, especially with, the development, professional development, and just making sure that we're also, looking out for the health and well-being of folks who have been pouring into our communities, in so many ways and forms. So thank you. All right. Well, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
And Madam Chair, just for the listening audience, we had no request for public testimony on that item. The next item is item number 2, which is a report with possible action regarding the discipline, disproportionality, and progress report. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Excellent. With the administration, please present the item.
Yes, Chair Garcia and members of the committee, the item before you this evening on this evening's agenda is our monthly report regarding discipline, disproportionality, and progress. John Jagman will provide an overview of the progress and guide us through the presentation. Upon completion, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. However, also have a team of individuals that's going to be with us tonight. Ebony Lewis is going to be with us, and El Haji Nadal, principal of Wedgwood, will be with us, and you will hear from him as well. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, John Jagman, District Discipline Manager. I will now go over our October presentation covering some of our work throughout the district in September. First, we always ground ourselves in the 5 priorities for success, looking at how we are improving district and school culture to create an atmosphere where we can increase academic achievement and accountability. The monthly reporting for 2022-2023 school year will focus on the following 4 focus areas: providing proactive supports and interventions, strengthening student, staff, and community collaboration, reconceptualizing the role of school leaders within discipline, developing staff integration of courageous conversations about race. I will now go through some of the work in each of those 4 focus areas. First, regarding providing proactive supports and interventions, as mentioned, we have provided the Culture, Climate, and Alternative Suspension Toolkit. Each month, we are focusing on a best practice from within the toolkit. In September, our focus is around community building and the 5 universal supports. We have offered a variety of self-paced modules within our learning management system, again, specifically focusing on our monthly focus of community building and 5 universal supports. We also held our introductory meeting with our identified schools for additional support, as mentioned in previous meetings. The restorative practices coaches have met with their cohort schools to review progress and look forward into this school year. The PBIS team provided professional development on facilitating effective team meetings for PBIS Tier 1 and the building intervention teams at Tier 2 and Tier 3. The discipline response team redesigned the de-escalation PD to be titled Navigating the Escalation Cycle and updated some of the best practices for teachers within that professional development. And the School Community Partnership for Mental Health, often called SCPMH, is now currently in 38 schools throughout the district. Looking at those Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, at the end of September, these were the documented interventions throughout the district. You can see 397 check and check out, 81 individualized check and check out, 109 social academic instructional groups or SAG groups, 13 BAPEs or behavior assessment intervention plans, 50 FBA BIPs, and 17 educational wraparound and renew. Our second focus area, strengthening student, staff, and community collaboration. The Student Discipline Committee meeting occurred at all middle and high schools. After identifying those students, at least one meeting occurred in September. The primary student discussion topics included looking at some of the school policies for the school year and focusing on that community building between students and staff members, increasing that school pride throughout the school. Gender and Identity Inclusion partnered with Girls on the Run, Pearls for Girls, and Welcoming Schools to get some supports in schools. And the Gender Sexuality Alliance, or GSA advisors, had information sessions. And again, as Dr. Posley mentioned, Ebony Lewis is here. She will talk a little bit more about that work momentarily. And the Black and Latino Male Achievement Office, or BMLA, pushed forward with their mentoring in 12 middle and high schools and their BMLA buddies in the 16 elementary schools. The Restorative Practices team has established 5 work groups with individuals from various departments in Milwaukee Public Schools. Those work groups are Community Partnership Development, Professional Development Tools and Materials, Restorative Practices High School Elective Course, School-Wide Implementation Planning Guide, and a Readiness Cohort, looking forward to add additional schools to those cohorts. PBIS coaches regularly attend Building Intervention Team and PBIS Tier 1 team meetings across the district. And the Social Emotional Learning, or SEL champion, was supported on some of the virtual online materials and best practices to share through their school. Looking at reconceptualizing the role of school leaders within discipline, a toolkit of best practices was highlighted for principals, again, focusing on how as a school leader, you can support that community building and those 5 universal supports. School leaders are submitting a monthly data reflection, looking at their role with school climate and their focus areas, and continued collaboration with the Office of School Administration, ensuring our school leaders are supported in this work. Looking at some of our data, again, we have our student demographics on the left, and then our year-to-date suspension events suspension events, disproportionality, we are currently at 79% of suspensions for black students, 15% for Hispanic, 2% for our white students. Looking at total suspensions throughout September, you can see year-to-year comparison from 21 to 22 on the top. Looking at total suspensions by race in the bottom, we had 312 Hispanic students suspended, 19 suspensions for American Indian students, 29 for Asian students, 1,718 for black students, 0 for Pacific Islander students, 51 for white students, 30 for 2 or more races. Again, those are individual suspension events, may indicate a student had more than one suspension as well within that. Looking at total suspension events by grade level, you can see the top grade levels are 9th and 10th grade. Looking at those administrator alternatives to suspension, again, this is when an administrator gets a behavior referral and they are applying a discipline resolution that is not a suspension. So they are using another tool at their disposal. You can see we have different levels of conference, counsel, detention, mediation, referral to BIT, referral to sports staff, repairing harm circle, and restorative conference, with counsel being the most utilized at 870 events. Our final, fourth focus area is developing staff integration of courageous conversations about race. In September, we held 2 sessions of the courageous conversations about race exploration. That is the one-day seminar that all MPS staff members are attending. We held that with individuals from specialized services and with school secretaries. We have scheduled courageous conversations about race exploration sessions for the remainder of the year to have a touch point with every staff member in the district. The Miseducation of Girls of Color workshop series, again, coming out of Gender Identity and Inclusion. Ebony Lewis can speak on that as well. Our next steps for October, we have our Fall Student Leadership Summit occurring on October 25th for those students in those student discipline committees to attend and kind of engage in this work and push forward some of their recommendations across the district. Our toolkit focus for October is proactive strategies, making sure all staff members have proactive strategies within the PBIS and restorative practices framework to support student behaviors. We have additional courageous conversations about race exploration seminar. We actually just had one this evening before the school board meeting. And then we've had our district equity leadership team, our DELT meeting, occur every month. That has leaders from every department in the district coming together, looking at areas to address equity across the district. Our monthly highlights. Again, we have updated our proactive student support strategies webpage. I will go to that now before turning it over to Ebony Lewis from Gender and Identity and Inclusion. And then we have the principal from Wedgwood Park will come on and talk about some of the work he is engaged in. First, I'm going to pause that. And show that we have created an updated page on our MPS website. So if you navigate from our main MPS website, that everyone is their landing page, underneath the scrolling pictures, you will see there are always these 5 bubbles. There is a new updated bubble, Student Support Strategies. Open to the public, any individual can click on that. They will go here, they will see our 4 focus areas, a link to the toolkit, a link to other documents like this directory of support, 30, 60, 90-day plan, some of the areas we are looking at to address discipline disproportionality. They can get links to the other members of the discipline response team. They all also have public web pages, so that'll all link there to them. Upcoming dates, the Student Leadership Summit, the Community Conversation. We will update that as more dates arise. Again, those resources are linked here. The toolkit, directory of support, the Rights and Responsibilities Handbook, other guidebooks, highlighting some of the student voice that we see, and drawing some attention to the courageous conversations about race and what that looks like for someone who's not engaged in that. So this is a new website that has gone live since our September PACE, again, to provide that public point of access to that information. I will now turn it over to Ebony Lewis.
Good evening, Director Garcia, members of the board, Dr. Posley. My name is Ebony Lewis, and I'm the Director of the Gender and Identity Inclusion Department. Just to highlight who we are, our mission, the MPS Department of Gender and Identity Inclusion works to ensure that all girls of color and LGBTQ+ students in MPS are provided safe, equitable, and inclusive environments and resources that support their holistic development and success. And our vision is that girls of color and LGBTQ+ students in MPS feel affirmed and are empowered to grow, learn, thrive, succeed, and be themselves. And so thank you all for having me this evening. Just here to give some insight and overview to what we have been working on this school year. And so on the next slide, you'll see some of our updates. We were able to really kick off a lot of our teacher PDs. And so as John mentioned, we do have 2 separate professional developments sessions that we've been offering to our educators, administrators, support staff, the miseducation of girls of color. So part 1 is more of an overview. We've had 339 teachers participate in that through August and September, and that will then become a 6-part series where teachers can be a part of. Glenna Shawley Malone, our coordinator, has put together a very thorough presentation that will walk through some biases, really look at some, internal policies, numbers, how we're doing things, and then the goal is to have educators walk away with a plan of action that they can take back to their school to better support girls of color. We then have our LGBTQ+ awareness module. We have served 528 teachers with that through September. However, earlier today, we were able to serve our parent coordinators. They got the first half of that, and every week we're training more schools individually on that, and really just looking to develop our staff. Next, we are working on a book study that will kick off tomorrow. We are going to be kicking that off at the Success Center. We have about 40 staff registered for that. And the 57 bus is a book. It's a true story about an agender student who was riding a bus. Their skirt was set on fire by a 16-year-old African-American male. And it really looks at the differences and really takes a look into their lives. And so really being able to highlight and use books to really educate and bring awareness to the students we serve and how they're interacting and that intersectionality is affecting us all. And then just ongoing school support, training, and student programs. And one of the supports that I wanted to highlight this evening are our gender sexuality alliances. That is something that we have been able to support fully, getting into schools, really getting to meet students and staff. And so gender sexuality alliances, or GSAs, are student-run organizations that unite LGBTQ+ and allied youth to build community and organize around issues impacting them and their schools and communities. GSAs have evolved beyond their traditional role to serve as safe spaces for LGBTQ+ youth in middle schools and high schools, and have emerged as vehicles to deep social change related to racial, gender, and educational justice. Our department is supporting our GSA advisors. As John mentioned, we did GSA informational, so really helping advisors get started. We last year served about 20 advisors. This year we have about 40 active GSAs already, and more than 80 advisors have expressed interest or reached out to us. And so really supporting those GSAs. We were at one before coming here. Today is National Coming Out Day. And so being able to support with special events that our GSAs are doing. And then a few that we did want to highlight. We have been supporting James Madison Academic Campus since last school year and continue to support this school year. And they have seen significant growth. They have about 60 students that attend their GSA. And I thought it was really cool. We were there, and just some qualitative data. There was a student who mentioned that she comes to school for the GSA. And so when we think about attendance and academic success, really having those safe spaces for our youth is extremely important. So that's a little bit of what we've been doing in the Gender and Identity Inclusion Department. Thank you all for your time. Oh, no, there's more. So we do have things coming up. As I mentioned, our Girls of Color programming, our trainings, learning opportunities, mental health resources. So we have tons of resources, partners that we're working with, and just really ensuring that our schools have access to those partners, which is another way in which our gender sexuality alliances are so important. Schools are bringing special speakers in and really able to connect with those programs that way. And then some of our special events, we will be planning some special events. We're looking at taking a few girls to see Woman King and just really looking at how we can really enhance special events and getting youth into our spaces and really just learning more from them. We'll be conducting some listening sessions through the end of the semester to really look at where supports are needed and how our department can continue to grow and support. And I think next is maybe our contact. Nope, that's it for me. Thank you all.
Good evening. Chair Garcia, member of the committee, Dr. Posley. It is a privilege to be here to the fullest meaning of the word, because what we're sharing with you today is a highlight of what the citywide region have done, particularly Wedgwood, under the leadership of Director Hawkins. What you see here is the reduction of suspension, but also not safety suspension, at the same time of behavior referral. And this has happened because of the work we've done in adhering and embracing the essential aids, which is really data-driven in terms of how we focus deeply into the nitty-gritty of what arrival means at Wedgwood, what breakfast look like at Wedgwood, what morning meetings, what transition, lunch, dismissal, celebrating learning and school-wide discipline look like. And this is also very much connected to the work. So we always focus on the data-driven action, support teachers and look at their action as well, student action, but at the same time, parent support and expectation. What you see is basically a little window of a landscape of what teaching and learning look like at Wedgwood and what the goal of citywide also looks like. And from that, we have worked very intentionally as leaders to make sure that these school initiatives are aligned to the district. First, we have worked very hard to make sure that every classroom have the PBIS chart for teacher decisions and also for office managed implementation that allow us to engage into courageous conversation with teachers and administrators. And from there, we also tap into the regional monthly goal setting set by Director Hawkins and also getting into conversation at a local level. All my APs have set up goals for their grade level in terms of referral, suspension, but also attendance. We have worked with some partners to get some mentoring groups whereby students who are challenging and have some issues in terms of behavior meet with the mentors every Wednesday to share some activities about choices, about self-love, and about also listening and being caring and empathetic. From there, we also have shared some cool tools with teachers on Wednesdays, where we videotape some classrooms, where those procedures that we share on the Essential 8 are very critical to show the teachers during those meetings what transition look like at Wedgwood, what lunch look like from the video, what exit look like, and what the entry look like. From there, we also get into punch card, where we get some positive incentive for students. We also have been able to do some walkthrough with our team, and the walkthrough focus not only on academics, but also on the behavior and the culture. And we know we cannot move a school forward if the culture and the climate is not up to par. And from there, we have engaged into some research-based book study, where we study and appreciate the depths of what we call investment. We've been able to get into what we call cognitive investment, where we talk about the why we're doing what we do. And we get deeper into that emotional investment, where we work with teachers to build trust and relationship. And we get into the functional one, whereby we provide support, training, and get some training also from a citywide supervisor, Director Hawkins. From there, we met into what we call the last one, which is return of investment. So if we've done all the things, we want to see some outcome. And what you see now from the research and the data is the outcome of the work that we've done. I'm just, before you, a storyteller, but the real heroes are the Wedgwood teachers and leaders, and also MPS, Dr. Posley, Dr. Cutton, and Director Hawkins for setting the vision, and all we do is just tap into that. I might be the drummer, but the real dancers are the Wedgwood teachers, and the rhythm has been created by our citywide regional director. So members of the board, I just want to thank you for allowing us to share what we do at Wedgwood. This word is endless, as I share with my teachers. And I am really, really honored to be before you and share some of just the highlight of what we do so far. And we could not do that without the support of everybody, including Dr. Posley, Dr. Cutton, and Director Hawkins. So once again, thank you for allowing me to share what we have done so far at Wedgwood. And we're not done. We know the job is endless, but we're up to it. So thank you.
Thank you for that report. I know that there's a couple of speakers on virtual and in person, but before we go to that, and while things are fresh, I don't know if there's any comments that fellow committee members want to share with staff before that gets lost in our minds. Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I did note that today is National Coming Out Day, and it's International Day of the Girl. So I'm really happy to hear this update. And my one question related to that, if I may be permitted just one short question. If a student were interested, it sounds like you have developed a cohort of interested facilitators, but if a student were interested in starting that, or how do the students, if they don't have someone in their school already promoting this, how do they know that GSAs exist, or, yeah.
Sorry. Director O'Halloran. So we are working to ensure that our students know about that. We met with the Superintendent Student Advisory Council so that they know we're here. We had a great time with them, and I know that they'll make sure that the word gets out there. But definitely we have our website. There's a referral page there where students as well as parents, families, staff can, send in their concerns, challenges, requests. And so we have had students use that form this year to request supports at their school. But we are also being very intentional to ensure, especially at our high school and middle school level, that we have GSAs and have those supports. And if for any reason there's a school that doesn't, our team is here to support those students and families as well. Oh, sorry, I'm Ebony Lewis, Director of Gender and Identity Inclusion.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Director Simpson.
Not a question, but as long as you're in the seat sitting there, I just wanted to thank you so much for the program that you're working on. It sounds very vibrant and alive and interactive with our students in the community. So I just want to thank you for that work and the presentation, because it was just really inspiring to listen to. So just thank you for the work.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. So if we can move into any of the public that wants to make comments, maybe we can start off with the person registered for virtual testimony.
Okay, we will go to the public testimony. The first individual on the platform registered to speak is Angela Lucas Foley. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Angie Lucas Foley, Lucas Foley. Hello? Angie Lucas Foley, Lucas Foley.
Angela, we are having a little bit of technical difficulty on this side, but you can begin your testimony. We do hear an echo. But go ahead.
I hear two. Is that okay? I can come back in.
If you you can hold one moment, we will go to the in-person testimony and come back. Have dead air. We do have one in-person testimony. Director Garcia.
Sorry. Let's go ahead and have the in-person testimony. So I just read this, or? All right, we have Ms. Lawrence Hoffman. You can, Mr. Lawrence Hoffman, sorry.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony. Thank you.
I'm with Micah, but I'm speaking for myself this evening. I'm glad the board and the administrators are back in person. I was hoping to see the most recent board members in person. Director Garcia, Director Leonard unfortunately didn't make it. It would be my first time to see you in person on the board. I encourage the committee members and the entire board to keep the OCR agreement, that is the Office of Civil Rights Agreement, as a high priority, not just in terms of carrying out deliverables, but so that before your very eyes, kids of all ethnicities are turned on and feel gratified by their experiences at school. Perhaps it happens a lot at Wedgwood, hopefully with students who you wouldn't expect it to happen to. We hope it would. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we try the other testimony or not yet?
Madam Chair, if we could go to board members and see if board members have comments or if the administration would like to respond, I will try to get the individual back into the platform to speak.
Thank you. So while we work on that, do any members of the committee wish to say anything? Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. I am so elated that we actually have like the GSA, but also a young ladies committee. Coming from someone who worked in the district and also like the parent coordinator, I started like a girls group when I was at Golda. And the majority of the parents loved it because it seems like a lot of times we'll have initiatives for young black or brown males, and we often forget about our young ladies or those that are identifying. I just wanted to know, do you see an increase of those young ladies that are open or willing to participate now that we actually have a department or initiative that's aimed towards them?
Administration.
Good evening, Dr. Garcia, Director Garcia, members of the board. I am Ebony Lewis, the Director of Gender and Identity Inclusion. And yes, Director Taylor, we have seen an influx of, I think, just students, even when we're there as support staff or just really like we do a lot of school visits just to get a feel for the climate at the school. We'll many times have young ladies come up to us. I was in a school supporting today and told them what I did, and they're like, oh, I want to sign up, take my name down. So, you know, we've been able to do that. We are planning our listening sessions, which will allow us to get in schools and really just get some input from our girls on how we can best support them. We have our Girls on the Run program going on in our elementary schools. And so Glenna went around the other day taking pictures, and we have one site that the max is like 15 per volunteer, and we have one site that had to have 4 volunteers because they have over 30 girls that were interested. So definitely we're seeing that, and we're just really hoping to continue to build and ensure that all of our schools have access to programming for girls and those supports.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
Yes, while we're still waiting. Thank you for that. I love Girls on the Run too. I was like the coach at our school. Also, when I think about some of our young ladies, are you guys inputting or working with any of those young ladies who may be within child is there any programs or initiative that align with this department with that as well too? And if so, if it's not an answer that we can get tonight, it would be great to like have it sent to the board. Just what are some of the steps that we're taking to ensure that they are still successful in obtaining their education?
Administration.
Yes, Director Garcia, members of the board, this is Ebony Lewis once again. We have partnered with the PYPP program. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but I know that it's for parenting youth. And so we've, worked with them initially last year. We haven't been able to set forth a partnership, but that's definitely something that we are interested in. And we'll definitely add to our listening session to ensure that we're asking the right questions, because I think it's important that we're ensuring that we're asking those questions to ensure that if there are any youth that have those needs, that we're able to address them and that we're preparing them and giving them tools and resources and partners that can support them on their educational journey. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? How are we doing with technology?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I believe we are ready.
Excellent. So we will go once again to public testimony.
To the virtual testimony.
Virtual testimony.
We would like to call Angela Lucas Foley. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Angela Lucas and directors. I come to you this evening as a white educator and as a proud member of our racist white educators of Milwaukee. I am focusing tonight's testimony on follow-through from our board of directors. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the linked button on the MPS website for supports for students and the PACE board director's dedication to this important item, of which was noted at the September PACE meeting. Our systems that serve our students are broken. This includes the accountability that is asked of every elected official seated tonight. To this end, I am asking the board members seated tonight, what would it take for each of you to commit to regular attendance of the district groups outlined in this evening's report? Specifically, can each of you commit to attending courageous conversations about race exploration? Can you commit to being a regular attendee of the district equity leadership team, or DELT? Can you commit to attending monthly student focus groups? As Director Leonard noted at September's PACE meeting, see minute marker 43 minutes 20 seconds. Quote, the goal is to, quote, change the culture in our buildings. At this same meeting, Director Taylor, see minute marker 1 hour, 23 minutes, 22 seconds, reminded us all that these reports aren't just numbers. They are individual people and babies, and we want them to succeed at life, not just at MPS. What better way to get a front seat view of the culture of MPS but through attendance at these important committees? Thank you.
Comment? But duly noted, and thank you for the speakers that signed up. So, Mr. Hoffman, pleasure to finally be able to see you in person, and I'm sure Director Leonard sending good vibes your way, where he's at right now. But I do think that, with Ms. Lucas Foley, thank you for bringing, that opportunity, I think, to our attention of making sure that as board members, we are plugged in as much as we can. I know that that's something that we are, I guess my question to administration is, once those meetings are designated, like, would we be able to just get a short list of when those meetings are taking place? I know we're all juggling 10 million other committees and things to do, but I'm sure that we can, plug those into our busy agendas.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, those items are posted on the website, And the website that Mr. Jagman went over with you tonight, all of those dates are there, times, and we welcome anyone that want to be a part.
Madam
Excellent.
Chair,
Yes.
members of the committee, I also would like to ensure that if a board member would like to attend, that they contact our office so that we can be sure to publicly notice and properly notice board member attendance at these meetings. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. I just wanted to thank the administration. I know I mentioned last month about the tab and you guys went busy. I'm to work, I'm checking through it. I'm pretty sure I'll go through it again tonight, but I think that is something that the public have been asking for, and I just want to thank you for getting on the ball to ensure that it's posted. I know it looked like a lot of work went into it, but I think it'll be beneficial for all, that it's one location that they can go to, so thank you for that.
Jen?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, I will say to you, basically what we placed out there is work that has already been rendered. And we have had a plan from day one. We have had the 60, 90-day plan, and we posted all of those items out so that anyone that wants to take a look at can see. So just thanks to all of the individuals that are in the Office of Student Services, as well as principals and school leaders and staff that are out in schools that have worked with us throughout this process to ensure that we are in a good place. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you to folks that presented, and I think we are ready to move on to the next item.
The next item is item number 3, a report with possible action on the annual school procedural compliance self-assessment, the PCSA. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the administration please present the item?
Yes, Chair Garcia and members of the committee, the item before you this evening is our annual procedure compliance self-assessment report, referred to as the PCSA. At this time, I will ask Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services, to provide an overview of the report. And following his presentation, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Travis?
Thank you, Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services. Good to go over, I'm happy to be here tonight to go over the RDA PCSA. You have the report before you. This is the Reading Drives Achievement Procedural Compliance Self-Assessment, to spell that out, from DPI, and it's a system of continuous improvement, focused monitoring, and what it does is it leads to improved service delivery to students with disabilities. It provides information for needed professional development, and it contributes to district personnel accountability for high outcomes for our students with disabilities. I would like to direct you to the attachment itself. You will see that there are 4 primary areas, and I'll go through a little bit on how this is laid out before I have Amy Kowalski go over some of the details. There are 4 primary areas that are assessed. Districts typically are assessed every 5 years. District our size is assessed every year, and so this is the 5th year of that cycle. And so these areas of assessment have been consistent over those 5 years. They'll be changing up for the next one when we're doing this again at this time next year. But those 4 areas were initial evaluation and reevaluation activities. You'll see 3 sub-items under that when we go into the report. IEP activities, and there are 18 sub-items under that. IEP implementation with 5 sub-items, and then discipline requirements with 2 sub-items. And I just want to briefly point out how this is laid out. So if you look into the report on the heading of 2122 RDA procedural compliance self-assessment table, you'll see those items, evaluation, record review, and then it'll say eval 1, 2, and 3 with a descriptor for each. I'll tell you what it is actually evaluating. Under IEP record review, it does the same, IEP items 1 through 12, et cetera. And then getting to the actual pages where we have the results, you'll see 2 columns. And so under each, if you look across and you're curious about how we scored as an aggregate, you'll see there's a 21-22 PCSA results column and then a 2019-20 PCSA results. If you're wondering what happened in that year in between, the state didn't gather that last year due to our circumstances around the pandemic. We did report out on that to some extent, but these are the actual official numbers from 1920 to 21-22. So you'll be looking from the column from the right being the prior one, column on the left being the newer number, as we look at these a bit. And then if you go further into the report, as you're curious about it, you'll see that the schools are listed alphabetically and they have their percentages. And then even further along, you can see how that is further broken down, those aggregate scores. If you're curious about a particular school, you can look at that school and then see across all the categories that were measured how that school did on each category. So I'm going to ask Amy Kowalski to go over some details.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, I'm Amy Kowalski. I'm the Director of Special Education. Of the 28 items assessed last school year, 19 items were scored at or above 95% compliance. 5 items were scored between 90 to 94% compliance. 3 items were scored below 90% compliance, and 1 item was scored as NA. Areas of strength: evaluation items 1, 2, and 3. Those include reviewing information provided by the parent at an evaluation meeting, discussing previous interventions and the effects of those interventions, and also documenting current reading information for the student. Another strength, IEP item 2, which is considering the strengths of the child and their concerns, the parents' concerns about the child's education. And then items 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, which are all related to developing IEP goals for students. So those look at, do we have a baseline from which progress can be measured? Do we have an attainment level, a statement of how to measure the progress, and then also services to address that particular goal, special ed services. Areas in need of growth were IEP item number 16, and that is the description of the extent to which a student will not participate with their regular education peers in the regular education environment. IEP item 17, which is the requirement to review a student's IEP every year and also look at progress and determine if progress was sufficient or needs to be readdressed. Implementation item 1, which is providing specially designed instruction as described in the IEP. Implementation item 4, which is providing progress reports to parents, and in those progress reports being specific about what the goal was and what the concern was related to that progress. And then discipline item 2, which is ensuring special education services are provided after the 10th day of a removal, a disciplinary removal, or a suspension in a school year. To encourage continued parental and guardian involvement in the IEP process and activities, the Specialized Services Department frequently collaborates with strategic partnerships and the Customer Service Department. So we collaborate in events that include Foro Latino, which was mentioned here tonight, and Celebrating Abilities, as well as supporting the work of the Special Education Liaisons for Families. To continue improving in all areas assessed by RDA-PCSA, Specialized Services Department supports professional development in a variety of areas, and some of those areas would be inclusive practices, positive behavioral supports, disciplinary requirements for special education students, the eligibility criteria we use when identifying students, and also elements of the IEP that include specially designed instruction, supplementary aids, and services, in addition to overall quality IEP development. These opportunities are in addition to DPI-facilitated trainings for specialized services administrators on the RDA-PCSA items at the start of the school year to calibrate everybody, and also right before we do the RDA-PCSA activities in the spring, the annual assessment in March. We also have an internal system of controls that includes specialized services administrators reviewing IEP activities and delivery of services on a regular basis throughout the school year, and then also working with personnel on how to improve IEP development and service delivery. And that concludes our report.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I do want to also highlight the fact that, we did see this data broken down into like by school. And I know that when I met with you all previously, we talked about how that is also used for like district-wide targeting specific schools. And I know this is very relevant to, you know, building cultures within building by building. So if you can just sort of explain a little bit about that, I think that'll help from a accountability piece, that there are things already in place and work that's currently being done. I just want to make sure that the listening audience also is able to hear about that work happening, you know, individual schools, but also how we're looking data-driven stuff to help us at a district level.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Amy Kowalski, Director of Special Education. One of the things that we do with this particular set of data is we ask that specialized services administrators, of course, share it with their school leaders. This is now information that is shareable because it has been presented tonight. Because it breaks down by school level, we ask that each individual school look at their data. Items that were problematic for one school may not have been for another school. And there are a variety of reasons that can contribute to that. Ones that I think we're all familiar with could be newer teachers who need a lot of support in this area because it can be very complicated. You're learning to be a teacher, you're learning to deliver specially designed instruction, and then you're learning to meet all these various requirements. And not that they're not critical and important to making sure kids get what they need, but we also have to make sure that we're doing the best we can at it, and that it's meaningful for both the student, the parent, the teacher, and ultimately DPI, who provides oversight to us. So what we ask our special ed supervisors, every school has some part of special education supervisor time supporting their building, and then every school also has a specialized services regional manager. The supervisors report to the regional managers. We ask them to go into their buildings on a school-specific level and look at their school improvement plans and build any weaknesses, any areas that are concerns, because sometimes they're concerns beyond special education or beyond what a special education teacher can address. How do we address those concerns and make those less of an issue as we move forward in terms of how are we better servicing students, how are we better supporting students, and that helps supervisors and us know how to better support personnel in buildings. From a district-wide perspective, this information also feeds into the district improvement plan because this is an area of focus, the performance of our special education students academically, behaviorally, socio-emotionally.
Well, thank you so much. So, Mr. Pintar, Ms. Kowalski, thank you so much. Congrats on high marks on this report. And now, do any committee members wish to make any comments or questions? Director Peterson.
Yes, I'll second the praise for the good score and the work that goes into it. I know that dealing with issues, these issues are very complicated. And I just want to ask your advice to the board. One of the concerns that have been raised to me by teachers who are working with children with special needs is the high vacancy rate of our district with those teachers, and also the other individuals, the paraprofessionals, the health workers who do a huge amount of work. I mean, they all working really hard. But I know that in some schools there's several teachers vacancies and others. What are your thoughts on that? I know it goes a little beyond this report, but it seems to me it's really important that we, as a collective district, really try to work on that.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services. Yeah, that is something that is, of course, always on our minds. It's not unique to our special education teachers, but as I think we know, and it's also not unique to us. It's across the state, across the country. Just came from a state conference where it was one of the main topics was also to attract and retain. So I would say on our end, one thing we're doing when we do have paras that have been called into duty for extended periods of time is we're trying to, and we've talked about that in other ways with the board, I know, but we've been really improving our offerings for paras in terms of trainings and professional development. We're calling in our PSDs in certain areas, those teachers that have unique training, maybe regarding autism or an area like that, to come into a classroom where the staff are not as experienced as we'd like them to be in certain areas because of those circumstances you just described. In addition, in addition, we've had several things through ESSER and through some of our other funding that I think we've heard about and talked about in terms of attracting and retaining staff, especially in high needs areas. And so we've been playing with those things as well. But those are all broader issues across just ours, but that's what I would add.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director Peterson?
We'll keep on working together on this issue, obviously. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Director Simpson.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to the staff that works so hard. I know IEP reports are very detailed, and it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to put together one that's meaningful, which obviously we're doing when you look at these scores. And just, you know, when you spoke of new teachers and the paras and, you know, some of the areas that we need to improve on, what is the you know, when we think about trying to support all of that work that's being done, is there sort of like a best, is it professional development? Is it coaching? Is it mentorship? Have you found like a good sort of, like this is bang for buck, our best way to approach that?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Simpson, members of the committee, Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services. I would say yes, all of the above. I see that combination frequently at work here. It goes beyond, again, our department, but we're frequently working on professional development for that purpose. Our mentors, working with staff very closely. Everything you mentioned, we're working on. So it is, as I said, a national issue that we keep our eye on and we continue to try to work through.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, for our listening audience, we had no request for public testimony on that item. The next item is item number 4, which is a report with possible action on services provided to students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment, the LRE report. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, the item before you this evening's agenda is a report on services provided to students with disabilities in the least restricted environment, LRE. Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services, and Amy Kowalski, Director of Specialized Services, is here to provide an overview, and after which we will be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Travis.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services. This LRE report, just to first of all go through just a quick reminder. We've been here every few months, and but just to, if you're not living this stuff every day, just to remind you of it. Typically, this is done, it comes up in September. We pushed it to October this year. I think this is a good development. I'll go over the reason why in a moment. But what you're looking at, and if you look on page 2 with that first attachment, we've got that summary started with our table, and that's going to build month by month as I come and report to you all. It's got indicators 5, A, B, and C, so three different indicators of that least restrictive environment. We want to see A, that percentage holding or going higher. We want to see C at least holding, maybe going lower, though it's quite low already, and then B also going lower. So what you're looking at, and the reason why I think it's important to talk about in October this year around, is you see that we've always had that asterisk or that caret by August of 2022 on that table. That's because, of course, with our 2 calendars, we don't have all of our students back, and so it was kind of a merger of data that we had, some of our students in attendance and some based on projections. So the truer number to look at is September, and so I ask you to look at September for 5A, B, and C as a percentage. And we're starting off, happy to report that we're starting off the year well. This is compared to May of 2022, essentially how we left it. We're at or an improvement on those numbers. So slight increase in A, as I said, a slight decrease in C, and then a slight decrease in B as well. I'm happy to entertain any questions you have at this time.
Do committee members have any questions or comments? No? Right, and do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
All right. All right, well, thank you so much for those reports, and looking forward to seeing this chart following months. All right, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, this was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
There being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.